Good day and welcome to a reasonable weather Welsh day. So anyway, hunting idle or power loss can also be a thing. Can sometimes be attributed to these: pressure relief valve and this one here, which is your suction control valve. You've also got a rail pressure sensor, which I've never had to replace. What I always advise people to do first is just throw a fuel treatment through. If that pressure relief valve is sticky or causing a problem, then there's every chance that some Red X will clean it out and it will either improve or actually fix the problem, which I've had on a couple of vans. If not, then if you're not keeping the vehicle very long, you could try and do a learn, but unless you're doing it yourself with a 4-scan, an MSHS switchable OBD port, it's not worth paying a garage to do that. You want to do the job properly, so you've got to go and buy yourself a pressure relief valve. Usually come in a kit. Suction control valve, ignore the air filter, just pretend you didn't see that. And usually a rail sensor will come with it. Now, obviously I advise using genuine parts, but you can get them from parts places. Depends how much of a risk you want to play. If you've done the fuel treatment and that hasn't worked, and whether you've done a learn or not, once you put the new parts in, you'll have to do another learn. But the other problem you might come across, which is very common with these self-bleeding systems, Mark 6s and Mark 7s, mainly Euro 4, I think some Euro 5s have a pump in the tank. I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so it's bleeding. So I've bought myself a little bleeding kit because I deal with these transits Euro 4 all the time, and basically without one it's a nightmare. You can try and fill the fuel filter up, and you can try and use Easy Start to run the engine to crank it and self-bleed it. But I don't advise using Easy Start, and filling the fuel filter doesn't always work. And also, if you're replacing these parts as well, around all your piping and stuff like that, if anything's damaged, or just because you took it off, something's cracked, hairline cracks even in these can cause problems, then if you bleed it yourself and it doesn't start, you know that there's something wrong with what you've done. If you don't bleed it and it doesn't start, you're not sure whether it's something you've done. So the way forward is with the Mark 6 and 7, it's all the same. I've got another video if you want a shorter version when you come back to doing this on bleeding. I run a line out of the outlet of the filter housing into this lightly coloured pipe which runs into your pump. Just get a bleeding bulb. You probably could do it with an electric one, but I've never done that. Use a bleeding bulb, it's a lot better. I advise the kits as well. The fitments are better when they click on, and you've also got a little valve usually on the actual proper kit things. Once it's bled, if you've got if you've got crank and no start, you've either got a hairline crack somewhere causing air to go into the diesel system, or the new suction control valve and the new pressure relief valve, something's not right, or it's just because they're so far out of what it was at on the learns that it's just way out. Now, really, I can't think of a good way of sorting that if it won't start, because you can't do learns without it starting. You have to do the learns after you replace all these. I would probably, if it was me, I'd put the old suction control valve back in, do the learn, and then put the new one in, and then maybe do a learn again, so that at least it's learning the details of the new pressure relief valve. But yeah, that's about as far as it goes really. Once you've done that, in theory, as long as nothing else has gone wrong in the meantime, which is very unlikely, it should start and run great. But make sure you keep your receipts and stuff for pressure relief valves, suction control valves. I've seen so many people have so many troublesome buys with that sort of stuff. I think, going by the fact that this has got a bit of pink on it, I'd say that's out of another van, which isn't a bad shout. I mean, you could go and get, if you find a van that's running and you can get the second-hand parts cheap, just chuck them on. It may be the case that because they're already worn or old, you might get quite a while out of them. I mean, this van's over 200,000 miles now. I've had it from 100 and something thousand, and I've got no problems. It hunts now and again, just a little bit now and again, but I do so many miles, and I do some stupid things as well. I mean, for example, air filter in a bad place, and it's the middle of summer, so I've probably got about 50-degree intake temps at the moment, but my pipe broke that extended it over to the other side of the engine bay. Anyway, so that's a rough idea on how to do that.